go. I was going to just share some of my keynote again and go through some of the stories, as I always do. But what I've decided to do instead is tell you about a recent experience that I've had. And many of you may remember that I recently went to the National Speakers Association National Convention and competed in a contest called So You Think You Can Speak. I was just now trying to formulate 3 points in my head that I could say, things I learned, and you know what, that's going to take too much thought, so I'm just going to share the experience with you, and hopefully you'll get something from it. I joined National Speakers Association about a year and a half ago. I joined Toastmasters about 2.5 years ago. So of course I'm newer to the NSA than I am Toastmasters. Well, I got an email about 5 months ago talking about this contest they were going to have at the NSA convention, which was, by the way, in Anaheim, California. Weather was awesome. The contest is called So You Think You Can Speak, and it was only for people who have been in NSA for less than 2 years. And so since I had only been in a year and a half, I thought, well, this is perfect. So what I had to do was submit a 3-minute YouTube video to our chapter president, and she was to submit that to National, and they were going to pick 6 people to go on and compete at the convention. Well, I think there's 40 or 50 chapters in NSA altogether in the country, and 23 people submitted videos. And then of those 23, there were 6 chosen to actually go to the convention and compete, and I was one of those 6. I wasn't going to go to the convention if it weren't for that, but I went to go ahead and compete. And it was awesome. I figured out that just since I was one of those 6 people, I had already won. Because what had happened is they selected 3 judges. I don't know if you guys know these names or not, but Randy Gage, Glenna Salisbury, and then Roxanne somebody. We'll call her Smith. So what happened is we get up there and we speak one at a time, and they let us in the day before the competition to just kind of get a feel for the main stage. And apparently, like, getting on the main stage is a big deal. I mean, as far as like, you know, speakers on the main stage. Now, our situation was a little different, but still, we were on the main stage, and it's like, ooh, you're going to be in front of Brian Tracy. And I'm like, who's Brian Tracy? So I think it was actually good that I was kind of stupid to the fact that I don't know who some of these big people are. So when I was making eye contact with Brian Tracy, it didn't intimidate me because it was just like looking at my dad. I'm sure if I ever go back and speak at National Convention, however long, and Brian Tracy's there, I'll probably wet myself. Because I will have read all his books, and I think it's Brian Tracy. But it didn't have an effect on me, so it didn't affect me that I was in front of my peers. I was just able to speak as if I was speaking to you all. To me, it was just another gig, is the way that I looked at it. So let's see here. The clock was on the floor when we checked out the room the day before. But the night of the competition, it was on the stage. And you know me, I like to move around while I'm talking. Well, we only had 3 minutes. I had to condense my hour-long keynote into 3 minutes. And I thought, how am I going to do this? And so one night, rewind here. The way that I think through a speech, by the way, is I have to walk. Some people think sitting in front of a computer. Some people think while they're driving. Me, I have to walk. One of 2 places, usually either the mall or in a park. So I walked for 4 hours one night at the mall to condense this 1-hour speech into 3 minutes. And the first hour of me usually walking is just me processing the day and what has happened, and it's just me. I don't even think about the speech for the first hour. And then my mind starts to come around to it, and then I start thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I carry a pen and a paper in my pocket, and I just start jotting notes down, and that's how I formulate my speeches. So I had this 3-minute speech, and so when I get on the main stage, finally, rewind again, when I'm backstage before I go out there, and I was the first one to speak, I pace. And I don't really pace nervously, but I pace because I like to walk at the park and at the mall. So when I don't have a big space to walk in, I just have to, I'm like Charlie Plum in his little, POW cell, just walking back and forth. And it probably looks like, that guy's like nervous, And I'm just like, hey, kind of going through my speech in my head. And so when I get on the stage and the clock is on the stage and I start talking, I'm thinking, I don't know how much time went by. That might have been 45 seconds, So I would like back up to look at the clock. And then I'd come over this way. I tried to make it real subtle. Well, the judges give you immediate feedback. And the feedback was awesome. And the people who were at the convention said that this event was one of the most it was just a big learning experience because of the feedback that they gave us. So some of the feedback that I got, as you can imagine, probably had to do with how the magic was interweaved with the message. So they were talking about how one of the judges, Randy Gage, said, I think what you need to do he goes, I know you're going to come back someday and speak on the main stage, but to do that, you have to, for the next year, give 100 speeches with no magic. And I was like, you sound like my Toastmaster. So, call it a little extreme. The point, and then Glenda Salisbury made the point too, that really what they mean by that is the magic is boom, it's like here, it's like entertainer Devin, and then the stories, like the Daisy stories and the Flower Fairy stories, have to just come down a level. And I don't think I necessarily have to give 100 free speeches with no magic. I just think I have to be aware of that dynamic and being comfortable with coming down to another level and being okay with people being like this. I want this for an hour, you know, and I want people clapping the whole time, and I just have to get comfortable with people who are just going to listen every once in a while. So. And then he also told me there's one point where I like to use my arms, and I did something like, you know, I was talking about Daisy's story, and I said this little gesture made the biggest difference. And he said that I raised my arm above my head, and he said that you should never raise your arms above your head unless you're an evangelist. Down to the big is like this, and then yeah, evangelist. So and then one of the judges told me that I kept backing up on my main points, and I was like, do I do that? Because I hadn't watched myself on videotape in a while, other than the videos on YouTube that Jesse puts up. But what I finally figured out, the reason I was backing up is because I was going to look for the clock. And you know, like, because I would think of it the most random times and be like, oh, better check it. And I didn't really time it out very well with my speech. You know, if I was really thinking, I could have stepped back and then come forward for the next point and looked at the clock. But anyway, so I bought a new video camera because mine was broken. I haven't videotaped myself in 6 months, but I think videotaping yourself is the best way to learn as a speaker. It's like football teams watching football tapes, and that's how I grew as a magician. And when I first started watching myself 7 years ago, I hated it. Hated watching myself because it was just like, I hate that guy. And then I started changing the things that I hated, and then I started actually enjoying to watch myself. Now I hate watching myself as a speaker. I just did a presentation yesterday for some educators, and I videotaped it, went home and watched it, and one thing I noticed about myself is I don't shut up. I talk so fast, and I don't pause to let things soak in, and I'm like, just shut up for a minute, let it soak in, and then move on to the next story. But it's just like, boom, boom, you know, so videotaping yourself, that's why I think it's awesome that we do the videotaping thing. Best way to learn. So I gave my first 3-minute speech, got some decent feedback, and then then 3 people went on out of those 6 people. So then 3 of us had to speak again for another 3 minutes. So I actually had to prepare 2 different 3-minute segments. So for the second set, I went last. And let's see here, the girl, I'll just tell you right now, I didn't win. Okay, so I was in the top 3. They didn't give second and third place. They just gave the top person. So the girl who won, her name is Allison Masari, just had an incredible story. And she got in a car wreck at one point. She was a burn victim, and she just had these stories that make you go, oh. You know, they involved her dad, involved other burn victims that she's helped, and the magic just didn't compete with it, you know. I knew by the way they were reacting to her that they were going to give her the award, and so when we went out there and they gave it to her, I was really happy for her. But just some of the feedback I got in the halls, for the rest of that week, people would come up to me and be like, hey, you're the Magic Man. I couldn't walk down the hall without someone be like, Magic Man, so I was like, what's up? I'm kidding. I didn't do that. But it really was like, because people just wanted to tell me, oh, by the way, I think you told me the last time at Toastmasters of the World that I do this a lot, and I got that from watching Dave Ramsey 13 weeks in a row, Financial Peace University. He always did this. So I started doing this in my speeches, and I was like, oh, you start to do things that you watch, and so you have to be careful how much you watch one person. So one guy told me, he pointed that out to me as well, but the main thing I took away from this experience is that no matter how much feedback people give you, the best way to learn is to videotape yourself, and I am extremely comfortable with where I am, and I have so much room to grow. But to fix all these little things isn't something that I want to dwell on. It isn't something I can fix overnight. It's going to take 20, 30, 40 years for for me to fix all these little things, and I just need to keep naturally growing at the rate that